It is, what is it? It's Tuesday, August 8th, and this is our regular town council meeting. All of our council is here and present. Good to see everybody. We're going to call this to order and start by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Wood, please, sir.
Wood, please. Pray with me, but before I get into the prayer, I would like to have a moment of silence. Your thoughts. We've had some losses in this community, as always, and we've had a loss in relation to Councilman Hamilton and Councilwoman Frazier. So a moment of silence, please. Heavenly Father, may we learn to love our neighbors more deeply so that we can continue to create a peaceful, caring, and just community. And as we pray for our families and friends, may we help each other in times of loss and sorrow with patience, love, and understanding, just as you love and help each of us. Please continue to give this council the ability, the will, and the knowledge to do good for the citizens of this community. And all this I ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Hamilton. We also have a civility pledge. If anyone would read with me, please do. We pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of the town of Bluffton. Thank you. We have the adoption of the agenda. Any changes, Mr. Chief?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Adoption of minutes. We have minutes from our last meeting of July 11th. They were in your packet. If you see the changes that need to be made, that's unanimous. We have presentations, celebrations, and recognitions. We'll start with introduction of new employees. And as who comes up? We doing it?
I'm first. Oh, where's Annie? She normally has the list.
Okay, while Annie comes up, we have another Boy Scout, Eagle Scout. What are we?
Boy Scout, Life Scout.
Okay, they're here for a badge. I got Grayson's name, but what's your name?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, welcome. Are you here for citizenship and communication?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and thank y'all for attending. Okay, we gave Annie a bit of time.
Public services first? All right, Derek. We got public services first.
Okay. Good evening, Derek.
We're coming up as groups to try to meet.
They're supporting me today.
Good. Yeah, we got a lot to do, but we want to see our new employees.
These are new employees. Again, my name is Derek Coates, I'm the Public Service Director, and I'm here to introduce David Glover, who came from Dawson. Thank you for there. We have Mark Emerson, who was promoted from Public Tech 2 to Public Service 4. And we have Luke
Portamonch. I know him.
He just came on board here last month.
He didn't have a beard the last time I saw him. He was about 4
I'll
feet
talk
tall.
to him about it.
I totally remember your family.
It feels a lot better here than it does in y'all's office, right?
Thank you all. Thank you for being part of our town and our family.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is building safety.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got some promotions as well as some new employees here. We have Stephen Williamson is joining us as a building inspector 1. David Brett. Stephen, you've been here for 2 weeks. 2 weeks,
Thursday.
Yes. David Brett is a building inspector as well for about 2 months. 4 months. 4 months. All right, time flies. So the 2 building inspectors. Sydney Holland, who's been with us for a couple of years now, has actually been promoted to a building inspector 2, which is great for us. Also, we have Carrie Guzman there. She has been promoted to the our growth management administrative services administrator. That's a mouthful. So she was the coordinator, but she was just doing a fantastic job, so I gave her more responsibility. And then also at the end, we have Miss Victoria Smalls, who was promoted to our Affordable Workforce Housing Manager. Yes, so.
Thank you.
One person.
Okay. Congratulations, y'all. Thank you. Okay.
I'm next. So, got Marcia. So Marcia is the new town clerk. She has been with us now for since her third meeting. So she had been here previously. She had been with the growth management department, and then she left. She was excited to come back, so she is our new town clerk. And so I think y'all have all met her and got to work with her for the last few months. We wanted to make sure everybody in the community got to see her and know who she was.
Thank you. And so many need to know her because we had a new email with our new town clerk. We slowly connect y'all.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce Eileen McCallum. She's been with us for a month. She is a part-time employee. She's going to do a little bit of everything, but her title is Video and Events Coordinator. And she hails from California, where she was a special events manager at the Marine Corps Base 29 Palms in California. She has a bachelor's degrees in communication and social media from Liberty University. So welcome, Eileen.
Welcome, Eileen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have some promotions to relay to you. So first we have
Angie Douglas.
Angie Douglas was promoted to our IT support and DEI coordinator. Natalie was promoted to Director of Finance. In our watershed department, we have Beth Lewis. She was promoted to Water Quality Program Manager. And we have Christina Hurd. She was promoted to Storm Water Coordinator Field Assistant. And then in project management, we have Mark Maxwell, who was promoted to CIP Projects and Acquisitions Manager. So these are our promotions from the town. Next up is the police department. So I'll be sending in small groups of the police department for the chief to introduce you.
Thank you all. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We're going to try to make this as brief as possible, but we have been busy over the past 6 months. We're going to start off with our civilian staff that we've hired.
Anna.
So we have Lorraine Jeter. She is one of our new school crossing guards. She will be reporting Cecil Lancaster, and she used to be a head cashier at Lowe's. We have Scott Geertz. He is also a school crossing guard, reporting to Cecil Lancaster, and he used to be a maintenance technician at Sun City. We have Pam Roccanello. She is joining Sunny as our community service assistant, and she came from an automatic sprinkler inside sales. So welcome to them. We have Jennifer Marino. She is our data entry clerk. She is working with JC, and she came from Amazon. And last but not least, we have Kate Cooler, who is our victims advocate social worker, and she came from Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. She's also one who originated and created the program Blessings for Bluffton, which we are going to start pushing out starting next month.
Good. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being crossing guards.
You guys come on.
All right, that's cool. So I will introduce the Class 3 officers that will now be in our schools. To the far left, we have Denise Hendrickson, and she is going to be going over to Cross Schools. She will be the first SRO over at Cross Schools. She is also a basketball coach for the women's team over there. Next to her, we have Jarvis Brown. He is also a Class 3 officer, and he will be the SRO over at Pritchardville Elementary. He was a security guard over there prior to us hiring him, and the PTO demanded that they get him back. So they love him over there. We also have new hires, our class ones. We have Azahil Young to my left. He came from the Marine Corps, and he is currently a student at Santiago Canyon College for Communications. We have Abril Rodriguez. She was a remote receptionist from the Bronx Veterinary Center, is that correct? And she has an associate's degree in criminal justice from the Bronx Community College. Go Red Sox. We have Alexa Lindiakos. She is also a Class 1 officer. She used to work front desk at Suffolk Services up in New York. New York, right? Okay. And she has a bachelor's in fitness and wellness leadership from SUNY. We have Gabrielle Pagano, a Class 1 officer as well, and she used to be a manager at Carvel Ice Cream, and we demanded that she bring us an ice cream cake. And then...
Don't burn the bridge.
Hold on, I got you on this. There you are. Taylor Corlett. Sorry, Taylor. She is local. She has a bachelor's in biology from University of South Carolina, Beaufort, and she is the niece of Tank Morris from BCSO. So.
Your chancellor is here, so he can clap for you. There he is.
So, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Chancellor, we get your graduates. Keep sending them to us.
Then last, but certainly not least, our promotions. Starting off with Bill Bonhog. He was promoted to Code Enforcement Officer. He's been extremely active since he's taken over that position, so we certainly appreciate him. Promotions to Corporal, not here today, is Oscar Frazier. He was promoted to Corporal, and he's over half of the SROs in our schools. Angela Serrano is here. She is our detective over domestic violence, and she's the one who came up with the domestic violence program with the stickers in the restaurants. So good job with that, Angela. And then Corporal Sarah Schaefer, she was promoted to Corporal, and she is a Corporal on the Patrol Division. Sergeant, we have Sergeant Dan Marciano, who is a Sergeant over Investigations. We have Sergeant Cecil Lancaster, who is a sergeant over all the school resource officers. And we have Sergeant James Perkins, who was recently promoted and over patrol as well. For lieutenant, we have Lieutenant Ryan Fazikis, who is not here tonight. He is over the investigation division. And Lieutenant Craig Carafa, who is lieutenant and the new emergency manager for the town of Bluffton. Thank you, guys.
Your interview today, I just texted Debbie to get us the link, and I wrote about you in our article, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you for the support. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Did he mention Carafa? I thought he missed him.
He did mention at the end. Yeah. Is that all, Mr. Steves?
Yes, ma'am, that's everybody.
Okay, next we have a proclamation, USCB Sand Shark Welcome. You normally would see a banner flying, but it will change your logo on us.
It will be up tomorrow morning.
That's going to be up tomorrow morning. So, I'm here, Chancellor. And we love doing this because, as you see, that's our feeding ground to get employees and get them to stay here, right, Chancellor? Thank you for being here. This is Sand Shark Week. Whereas the University of South Carolina Beaufort, well, we say Bluffton, is fully accredited comprehensive baccalaureate institution within the University of South Carolina system. And whereas USCB provides specialized instruction in 19 undergraduate degree programs, 2 graduate degrees to fulfill its mission to respond to regional needs, draw upon regional strengths, and prepare graduates to contribute locally, nationally, and internationally. Whereas USCB is a primary regional resource for exceptional skilled healthcare professionals, teachers, hospitality managers, science-based researchers, and computational troubleshooters in South Carolina Lowcountry. Whereas USCB has a reputation for institutional prominence as a regional problem solver, catalyst for progress, and an engine for economic growth. Whereas reports on the economic impact of higher education in Beaufort County indicate that 1,066 jobs, 50 $50.5 million in additional wage and salary income, $122.4 million in economic output, and $1.6 million in net government revenue are attributable to USCB every year. Whereas this week, USCB welcomes more than 2,000 students, their parents, other family members, and friends to campuses in Bluffton, Beaufort, and Hilton Head Island, into athletic facilities at Hardyville for the start of the 2023-2024 academic year. Therefore, I, Lisa Solka, Mayor of the Town of Bluffton, along with this wonderful group of Town Council, do hereby proclaim the week of August 20 to 26 as USCB Sharp Welcome Week. So we're going to see a lot of new faces and just welcome them and say hello.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to say anything?
Absolutely.
Let's get a picture.
It really means.
Say a picture for her.
Okay,
Picture
thank
for
you.
her. Here, turn that around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please
It
have the floor.
really means a great deal for our students to not only be welcomed to our campuses, but to be welcomed by the Boston community. It means a lot, and we are excited. We are continuing to grow, continue to make you proud. Thank you again for your support, and thank you for this acknowledgement.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your time with these new kids. Next, we have Palmetto Breeze Transit presentation. Mary Lou comes to our area LATS meetings, and we participate in this, and I'm glad you're here to do a quick overview of what you do. Thank you.
I have a presentation.
Here it is.
Please don't. And this is Brian Sullivan. He's our marketing manager. Thank you, Mayor Selka and council members, for allowing us to come and do a presentation on what Palmetto Breeze, which our official name is the Low Country Regional Transportation Authority. And what we do, we are a 5-county authority, and we do both urban and rural services, which is important because that's how our grant money comes in, both rural and urban. Do I do it?
Just press the arrow, right there.
Okay, I got it. And this just shows some of the services we do. We have 7 commuter routes. We have a route. Once all the commuter buses come in from the outlying areas, they transfer in Bluffton to different locations. A lot of them are on Hilton Head. We have one bus that just serves the Bluffton area, and I'll get into where that goes on the next slide. We do the Bluffton Breeze, and we have a slide with a description of the route, and we started that 2 years ago. We do Easy Breeze, which is our paratransit service. The ADA paratransit is required by the Federal Transit Administration. Anytime you have a public fixed route system, you have to put in an ADA paratransit, meaning that if someone cannot get to a bus stop and they live within 3/4 of a mile of the route, we'll go to their door and pick them up. And say they're going to any store or any services that are within 3/4 of a mile of the route, and we take them there. And we do at this time have 8 registered ADA passengers in Bluffton that use the service. And they have to fill out an application and be approved that way through their physician. We have demand response services, and that is similar to Dial-A-Ride in other areas where folks can call in and see if there's at the time they want a trip available. And we do about 20 to 25 trips a day for folks that just call in and say, hey, I need to go to dialysis. Can I get a ride to my doctor's? And it doesn't have anything to do with Bluffton Breeze, and we charge by the mile. Fairly reasonable. It's $5 for up to 10 miles. And so that's very popular. And I'm glad that we can fulfill people's needs. We have done some special events, just recently the Mayfest, as they couldn't find a private charter operator. Generally, we wouldn't do anything that the private charter operators would do, but there was none available. And I believe we may be online for the next festival as well, and we're happy to help out. We do the DeFusky Ferry parking shuttle. Right now, it's behind Tanger 2. We have 4 trips a day that we take people from that site. And if you'll see, it's full of cars to the DeFusky Ferry down at Buckingham Landing. We also do a shuttle between the USCB in Bluffton and in Beaufort. And so we go back and forth throughout the day so that the students can take classes at either campus. And we provide emergency evacuation services. And for what most people would think of here as during hurricanes, but there can be any kind of natural disaster. And if the EOC opens and we are ESF 1, we're in charge of transportation. And I know during Matthew, we took about 375 people to the shelter in Jasper County. And so we're there. We activate, anytime the EOC is activated, we're on duty and ready to help. This is the map of all the commuter routes, and when you look at it, it's pretty amazing that we bring people in from all of these areas, and that's what I wanted to talk about, is they come in from all these areas as far as Walterboro and Allendale, and when they get to Bluffton, the bus that takes them around Bluffton, we take employees to RSI, which is Resort Services Industries on Buck Island. We serve 2 Parkers. We go to the Bluffton High School. We have a worker there. We do some services in Buckwalter. We have employees to the McDonald's, the Pizza Hut in there, Vineyard. And then as we head up, we serve the Wendy's, and I know that's part out of Bluffton, but Zaxby's, the Walmart up there, all the employees that come from the outlying areas come here, and then we distributed them around, and then at the end of the day we go back and get them. They get back on their bus to Allendale, Hampton, Colleton, and it really provides, it's a two-way street. It provides them with good incomes, better than they can get where they live, and it provides us with employees that are so hard to come by. And this is the Bluffton Breeze. We started it 2 years ago. It is funded through FTA and also by the town of Bluffton. And it's part of the urbanized area. And we operate 8 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. And the route's a little hard to see here, but the majority of it is us going along the Bluffton Parkway. That up and down is where we're coming from Walmart to Town Hall. And we also serve the new RV park, that's the National Golf Course, and we do pick up people there. And we have some regular riders. I have to say that it's a slow grow. We have tried a lot of things, and we're not done trying. And here's a slide on that. We reduced the schedule early in the year because we were very short of drivers, and we had to look at where can we be more efficient. So we went from 3 drivers on the route to 2 drivers by removing 2 hours in the middle of the day. And we did that because there wasn't enough ridership, and we didn't have enough drivers. And so we're getting ready in the fall to put back that 3rd driver, but we're looking at something we want to call the Okatee route. And what we want to do is we planned the route, and we're moving forward with it as a pilot to see if we can get some of the folks that live up in that area that don't want to drive. And from our conversations we had, there are a lot of people that would like to come to Bluffton, that used to come to Bluffton, that used to go to the farmers market and come into town, and they don't want to drive on 278 anymore. And so we're hopeful that we can market that and get some more ridership up, so that we're doing what our mission is to get people around public transportation. And the ADA service, again, I discussed that. These little vans are very comfortable and air conditioned, and we get people right to where they want to go, door to door. And the emergency operations, I brought some brochures for everybody and to put in Town Hall. And basically how this works is we have a registry. And so if somebody knows that they're going to have difficulty getting to the shelter, they can get on our registry at any point in time. PalmettoBreezeTransit.com, go to Hurricane Registry, put your name down. Right before a storm comes, or if we know we're about to get one, we call everybody on the registry to see, do you still need service? Are you still there? So then we have that list, and then usually as soon as a hurricane's announced, the phones light up and we get another 50 or 100 people. Well, the day of the event, in the morning, we have a call center, and everybody can call in, and we make routes for the drivers to go pick everybody up, and we get them to the shelter. So I think we've gotten really good at it, unfortunately, and hopefully we won't get to practice this year. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, questions on this side?
Mayor, I see you as imperative to the long-term solution to the transportation needs in the area, the region. I'm a little surprised your ridership has not increased to a point that you'd like it to. I hope that you're making a really sound effort, but my question really is, the goal was ultimately to connect to Hilton Head to bring the workers back and forth. When do you foresee your organization doing that?
Well, I have to say that it has a lot to do with the funding, and the way we're funded is based on two-year-old statistics through the FTA. And so in order to have that big of a growth, we need a big growth of funding. And I have been told that we may be part of the next sales tax referendum, and that would do it. We need to be able to purchase buses and hire more drivers, not with the grant money. What we use is primarily our funding is grant money and local match. And so it's very hard to make a big push without a substantial amount of funds. And so right now we've developed service on Hilton Head, but it's seasonal. It's very popular. And I want to say the first 2 years it wasn't. And so we didn't give up on it. We're carrying 40 to 50,000 riders just from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I know it's made a huge difference over there. And I have to tell you, we were a little surprised that folks here aren't so interested in leaving their car in the driveway or in the parking lot and getting on the bus, but we're not giving up. And we're going into year 3, and that was the year the trolley took off. So we're really hopeful that we'll get a solid base.
Any questions? Do you have questions? Real quick, do we help with the media to get this word out? I don't know that I see it anywhere, and maybe we all should ride it. And where do we go? I don't even know how I would even get on it, and I'd like to ride it.
Yeah, Mayor Selka, this is Brian Sullivan, I'm the Director of Marketing. What we're struggling with is advocacy in the community. And so, for example, the markets, actually plural, are huge advocates. They love it, and they keep scratching their heads saying, why aren't people riding more to the markets, especially Thursday? So, if that's an offer for assistance with communications, we would love to take you up on it. It was one of the keys to success in Hilton Head.
I think it's you getting it for us, because I'm looking right here at 3 of them, and I need to look at Stephen, they're his employees. But, maybe get with Stephen and let him connect you on what we can't create the marketing, but we surely could spread it.
Absolutely.
Mayor, I do have a question.
Yes.
I think just in talking to some residents, another initiative that might aid in that could be a partnership, we discussed, is because there's no designated commuter area, a lot of people aren't comfortable or know if they do want to use that as a ride share, like where they park in their car. Because if there's not a designated spot, I'm not going to leave my house to get on the bus somewhere, because where am I parking when I do leave to utilize them instead of my personal vehicle? So maybe that's something that local municipalities should think of, is if we're wanting to see them used in that way, do we have open spaces or a parking lot somewhere that could be designated as this is a central location to go to?
Stephen's taking notes. Great. Anything else? Thank you very much. Next, we have the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. Tom, you've been on this a couple agendas, and we've got you here. While you're coming up, I saw 2 more Boy Scouts come up. Are they here for the same badge? And then I saw a young man in the back. Is he here for, got to embarrass them all. What are you here for?
I'm here for the same merit badge.
Very good. I appreciate y'all being here. Okay, Tom, take note of all of them.
Mayor Solka, Town Council, and staff, the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce has enjoyed a partnership with the town of Bluffton since it was still a 1 square mile state of mind. We represent 1,400 member businesses and organizations of all types. A recent survey revealed that their biggest challenge is attracting and retaining a qualified workforce. Challenges frequently require 2 things to resolve: collaboration and creativity. We at the Chamber are collaborating with creative community partners in an effort to develop and expand the area's workforce. Our website currently hosts a landing page for locally focused job providers and job seekers called Low Country Jobs Now. This site, powered by Indeed, is where local businesses and organizations can post their job opportunities, and potential employees can search these openings and apply. The site also contains career resources, tools, and advice. We are working to add 5 additional portals to this jobs site in order to expand the potential workforce. Each one has a unique focus and will be developed in partnership with community individuals and organizations with expertise in their respective areas of focus. These 5 portals, in addition to our current local careers portal, are as follows. 1, Encore Careers, powered by the Chamber's Business Workforce Coalition. This committee will work to engage our local retirees back into the workforce with interesting and engaging part-time job opportunities. 2, internships for area high school students, powered by the Chamber's Business Education Partnership. This committee is working with our local high schools and businesses to develop experiential learning opportunities for our students and provide them with insights into possible career paths. 3, internships for our local college students, powered by the Chamber's Bluffton Regional Business Council. This committee is working with TCL, USCB, and SCAD to develop internship opportunities for their students' chosen fields of study, providing our local businesses and organizations with an opportunity to attract their future workforce. 4, service members transitioning out of the military, powered by U.S. Chamber of Commerce and various local veterans. This committee will work to provide skill bridge funding for local businesses to hire military personnel transitioning to civilian careers. And then finally, 5, jobs for people with disabilities, powered by the Beaufort County Disabilities Coalition. This committee will use their knowledge and experience working with people with disabilities to help match them with job opportunities throughout the community. Each of these 5 additional portals will include resources and valuable information about the programs. The hosting organizations will work within their circles to attract businesses and organizations to post job opportunities and attract target workforce candidates to apply. By collaborating with local community partners creatively, we can help build engaging opportunities for an expanded workforce. I look forward to providing future updates on the progress of these workforce initiatives.
Thank you. I don't know if there were questions. It might be more just for info, but does anyone have questions? Anyone? Thank you.
Interesting. I'm sure it would help questions at some point.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. That's the end of presentations, celebrations, and recognitions. Next, we move on to public comment. Public comment, as you know, is a privilege, not a right. It is something we need to go over with our rules, so if y'all just bear with me. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes per meeting, regardless of whether the person is speaking on their own behalf or as an agent for others. They may not donate, transfer, yield, or give any or portion of their speaking time. They're to be conducted from the podium and directed to town council as a whole and not to any member thereof. Speakers shall be mindful and respectful of those participating in or present at the meeting. Speakers shall be expected to be civil in their language and shall refrain from comment or behavior that involves disorderly speech or action, name-calling, personal attacks, threats, obscene or indecent remarks, and or disruptive actions. Confine your comments to the jurisdiction of this town council. If you violate these rules, you'll be ruled out of order by the presiding officer, and any person who comments have been ruled out of order shall immediately cease and desist from further improper comments. This is refusal of an individual to desist from this may be subject to removal from the meeting and or a citation under our section 2.49 of the code. These are our rules, and our rules are part of our ordinance, and our ordinance is the law of this town. So I just like going over that. And with y'all here, you kind of understand how we try to run a business meeting. So with that, if you come up, say your name and address, even if we know you, we need it for our minutes. And I will pass it on to Marcia.
Michael Hughes. He'll be speaking regarding consent agenda item number 5.
Thank you. Hey, Michael.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Hughes with Thomas Nutton. She is correct. I did come here to speak on consent agenda item number 5 and some of the specific language within there, and had some concerns about it. However, I have spoken to Ms. Kimberly Jones, and she has eased my concerns regarding that item. So I really have nothing formal on the agenda to speak of. I would like to say how lucky the town is to have staff who's willing to engage, communicate, and work collaboratively to solve problems. And I do think also your constituents should also know that I think this council really does work in the behalf of them and is looking as a team out for their best interests. So hopefully, if you don't get enough credit for that, I hope you acknowledge that you really do a good job, and I appreciate what you guys do for your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And Kim, will you let us, was that in our packet? Will you let us know what the changes are that he wanted? It's in our packet. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Mr. Hoagland?
Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. David Lauderdale's excellent column, Sloppy Government, in the packet about the latest Beaufort County Greenway scandal should strike fear in the heart of every corrupt, incompetent county employee, mayor, attorney, and elected official. We all know what corruption is. It's insider dealings, bribery, quid pro quo, nepotism, pay to play, kickbacks, and more. Now is the time during this wholly self-inflicted county disgrace to speak up on the issue. It has severely damaged our community and caused embarrassment to honest council members and employees alike. We must all understand dishonest acts by county employees, lawyers, mayors, and council members further degrades the system. It's a curse to society and totally against democracy. Corruption continues to flourish here. Weak law enforcement, lack of accountability have created an environment where this behavior has gone unpunished. And the systematic issues such as lack of transparency, FOIA compliance, fraudulent internal audits, fraudulent budgets that both only show the numbers the insiders like Greenway, Salka, Gruber, and Orlando want you to see, has further created multiple opportunities for these immoral, craven people to abuse power. We must focus on robust, enforced laws, regulations, and full financial transparency. Remember, we all have the power, and it starts with ourselves. Let us not support corruption, the greatest evil in our society, and remove it. People are silent in such situations, but being silent is not acceptable. Raising our voices toward exposing wrongdoing is a first step to fight corruption. Combating corruption is challenging, but measures can be taken. The most important steps is improving the court system and the institutions responsible for ensuring accountability. We can do that by council hiring an outside forensic auditor, preferably somebody out of state without any ties to local insiders, to conduct a thorough forensic audit of the entire Beaufort County and all those who receive tens of millions of our tax money with zero oversight for the last 50 years. This includes the school district, our treasurer, the town of Hilton Head, the town of Bluffton, the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber, Burr Foreman Law Firm and bonds, and millions of hospitality tax and A-tax funds have disappeared. Toomer is Salka's lapdog and pet. He's not fit to be a mayor. Fingers should be fired and arrested. The Hilton Head Chamber is corrupt. We need honest leadership. And yeah, you smile, Ms. Salka, but you need to be investigated.
Lynn Greeley.
Lynn Greeley.
On attendance.
Lynn Greeley.
Ms. Greeley?
Yes.
I have a
You're not
PA on
Ms.
file
Greeley.
for Ms. Greeley, and I'd like to make a statement. If you're not
You're
going to
not
let me
Ms. Greeley,
speak,
sir.
all right, if you're not going to let me speak for Ms. Greeley, let me just say that
Oh, sir, your time is
a
finished.
POA allows a citizen to speak.
Thank you, sir. But,
Okay?
sir,
and,
you're
and
out
by
of order.
finger, and by you, Ms. Salka, shows your corruption
You're out of
by
order.
not allowing me to speak for Ms. Greeley.
out
This
of
shows
order.
your corruption.
Mr. Hoagland,
Please
you've been
sit
called
down.
out of
This should
order.
be settled in a court of law. Mr. Finger, you are not the jury, the judge, and the executioner. This should be
Public
settled in a court
Mr.
of law.
comment is
Hoagland, you've been
over.
called out of order.
So you should let me
You're not-
just finish
you
my
need to
speech
finish
like
your-
Hilton Head does.
No, we're not Hilton
allows
Head.
it. No.
We've done this for the last 6
Hilton Head
months.
allows that.
Your time
We
is
do
up.
not use
You
police
can
force.
yield to a seat, or
Let me
else
ask
I
you
will have the
something.
police escort
Did you
you
know that
again.
Sheriff Tanner told both
Communication.
Mr.
Would you
Finger
please
and
address
Lisa
the
Salka,
situation?
we have
Thank
on
you, Chief.
video, to not use police force against a citizen who legally criticizes town government. You should not use police force.
Students, I'm really
Not do
sorry y'all
this.
have to see this.
No, you should let me finish
We
my
have
speech.
mayor communications
No,
from
I
mayor and
want you to let
council.
me finish my
Sir,
speech.
don't
like Sheriff
embarrass
Tanner
these
said.
students.
You're not the elected sheriff. You're a hired and
Communications
sheriff by this
from-
town, and you're just fearing your job.
Thank you, sir. We have communications from mayor and council. I apologize to you students, but this is how you do not act in public.
It's so important. You young boys take notes.
As you know, you saw me allow him to speak his 3 minutes. We have communications from mayor and council. Let's get this reset, and I want something positive from y'all. And I have something positive. So I'm going to go to you, Ms. Frazier. What you got? Anything? Mr. Toomer?
You can call the lap dog. Never heard that one before. So, anyway, I can handle it.
Fred, you want to go? I just want to take a moment. I noticed you Boy Scouts when you came in earlier, and we're grateful you're here. Unfortunately, this does not happen a lot of places, but it happens here for the last X amount of years with the same people, same individual. But that is not what life is all about, and that's not what government is all about. And so you guys are the future leaders. You're our future. You're going to grow up, and some of you are going to be sitting up here at the podium one day making really good decisions on behalf of your community. So we, all of us here, are glad you're here tonight, and we're grateful that you have a civic interest. So thank you.
Ditto what Dan just said.
Y'all all need to meet Mr. Hens back there, because when you get into high school, you're going to want an internship, and he will get your name, okay? And you got a reference letter from all of us just by dealing with that. Okay, I want y'all to know something, and I'm going to take a couple minutes if y'all will humor me. I just gave this to Fred. Guys, this young man's named Chris Singleton. Chris Singleton played baseball at Charleston Southern. He was freshman year, he got a call. His mom was one of the people in the Emmanuel shooting when y'all were just babies. And he was a freshman in college to get a call to say his mom had met her fate. So God spoke to him, and he is on a circuit, and we all went to the Municipal Association, and he was our speaker. And I think everyone in this room that heard him would say that it was probably the best speaker we've ever heard, ever. So if you can Google him, if y'all want to do some reading and get this book, it's a super easy read. It teaches you unity and empathy. It teaches you you might not agree. This man's a little far gone, but I wonder what his story is. I wonder how an upbringing makes someone do that. You might not agree, but you can understand someone's story and appreciate where they're coming from and where you're coming from. And that's what your badge is really kind of focused on. But this is a fabulous, easy, I'll approve it read. And I would get you really to get it, or Google him on YouTube and see if you can see one of his talks, because it's pretty darn amazing. So I bought this for Fred because he was not able to be there last weekend. And it's just a good thing. It'll make you feel good. So that's all I got.
Thank you for the book.
You're welcome. I'm going to quiz you on it.
Of course you will.
I'm going to quiz him and all the rest of you. So nothing else from Mayor and Council. We have formal agenda items, which is why we are here today. We have a lot of fun business to go over that I think is very encouraging. First up is consideration of an ordinance amending to the Town of Bluffton Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 21, emergency permitting procedures to civil emergencies to record all code requirements related to emergency management to one consolidated chapter. This is the final reading. Yes, you're up. We usually don't go over everything from first to second, so you're really not going to even know what we're voting on.
And this was, to summarize it real quick, there were no substantial changes. There was no changes in the real purpose of the ordinance. We were just consolidating several chapters into one chapter to address all of whatever emergencies may arise, civil emergencies, hurricanes, whatever that may be, just to get those in all one location so that things weren't inadvertently overlooked. And there were no changes from first reading, so if you so choose, there is a proposed motion on the screen.
And whenever we change our ordinances, we have 2 meetings that we do, and this is really more housekeeping and helpful for our citizens. So if there are no questions of council, is there a motion to approve the amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 21, Emergency Management, Civil Emergencies?
I second it.
Is there any discussion? Thanks for doing this. All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Number 2, under Section 10 is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the Code of Ordinances by authorizing, establishing, and adding Section 6, the Economic Development Incentives Program. Chris, hello.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good to see you. So tonight we're going to talk about economic development and a proposed ordinance that will identify some target areas, industries and professions, and potential incentives to encourage them to develop in those target areas. But first, I'd like to do a little pop quiz. So what is the estimated population residing within the Bluffton study area defined in the comprehensive plan?
Are you asking us? Or are you
Yes, we got
asking
an A, B,
these
C,
smart
and D.
ones?
So any guesses?
A.
A.
Anybody?
No, is this during the period the comp plan took place?
Or now? This is 2021. So yeah, right
Then
around.
I would drop the number to B possibly.
Well, it's actually C.
Maybe incidents.
So,
You should said it.
so this is the study area population, which includes the incorporated and unincorporated areas. It does not include Sun City, and does not include residences north of 278. So what is the population residing within the Bluffton study area west of Buckwalter Parkway?
Wait a minute.
So that's in Bluffton and then unincorporated, all the way to Jasper County?
West of Buckwalter Parkway.
I'd say.
Hey.
I say D.
D is correct. 26,000. So
Yeah,
that is roughly 51% of the population within the study area. So incorporated and unincorporated. And finally, what percent of businesses are located in the study area west of Buckwalter Parkway?
B.
B.
C.
It is B.
Ah.
Only 17% of our businesses are in that area, even though 51% of our population is out there.
How much of the population?
51% of the population.
51% of the population.
70%.
Rooftop, 70% commercial.
That's correct, yes.
Wow.
So a little background, as you all know, you approved the comp plan and the revised strategic plan in 2022. In the past, our focus on economic development has been primarily with DRCI, and that's our small business startup and growth program. Also our MCIP in Buckwalter and the Buckwalter development, with a focus on trying to identify a corporate headquarters in that property that the town owns out there. And very quickly, our updated build-out numbers, I think this is from the last update, which was in January, I believe. But residential build-out's at 76%, and commercial still lags at 36%. So some of the areas of concern that we're trying to address with the incentive ordinance is, one is traffic, and I'll kind of show that in future slides when I show you some maps. But commercial development obviously is lagging our residential growth, so there's a lot of demand for additional commercial. There's a lack of private sector services industry. So these are service-oriented businesses. There's a really high demand for these, and obviously that growth in that particular area has not kept up with the pace of population. Obviously, we have issues around high cost of land and development costs, and then, of course, making sure that we're meeting our goals of our comp plan over the long term. So overall goals of our initiative here is to promote these commercial developments in these underutilized and underdeveloped areas, support new businesses, as well as expansion of existing businesses that are in these high-demand service sectors, reducing the distance between the neighborhoods, our residents, and these services, so they're not traveling as much on the roads, and of course, hoping to increase our property values, as well as decreasing the overall property taxes as commercial development increases. So if you're looking at just the incorporated area population, again, this is 2020, 2021, it's 30,000 people in this incorporated area. Today it's closer to 37, 38, but this is at that point in time. And again, here is your study area population, over 51,000, and the businesses are around 1,900 businesses within the area. And then west of Buckwalter, you can see the population of 26,000, which is 51%, and 331 businesses, which is only 17% of businesses.
Chris, can I ask a question on these numbers? When you're saying west of Buckwalter, are you including, where's, I mean, is one side of the development is on the east side and one's on the west side, so
Buckwalter line, anything west of that.
So the ones that are where the police station and all that, that's included in this.
But on the other side of it, it's not.
It's not, okay.
And again, this doesn't factor in Sun City, which we all know is a large population that still uses our roads and services. So we took a look at our labor force within the study area, and this particular chart does it by industry. So it identifies the total employed, the amount in particular industries, and the percent of the total employed, and it compares it to the U.S. percentage. And then this location quotient out to the right here is basically the U.S. average is 1, and if you're lower than 1, then you're below the national average for that particular industry. If you're above 1, you're above the national average. So when looking at these, you see wholesale trade, warehousing, tech, educational services, healthcare, and social services and assistance. Those are all areas that are well below the national average for our area. Again, we're looking at labor force, and this breaks it out by occupation. And here again, you can see that computer tech, mathematical, life, physical, social sciences, and healthcare support are well below the national average. I also highlighted here healthcare practitioners because it's right about on the national average. And so the difference there is healthcare practitioners are your doctors, healthcare support staff is your nurses, your techs, your medical equipment techs, your medical billing specialists, all those support professions that support it. And I pointed it out here because some of the anecdotal conversations I had with CEOs of different hospitals in the areas, they mentioned that they are getting doctors, but they are having a hard time getting the support staff because of the cost of living in the area. And I'll address that in a future slide on some of the incentive areas. The next series of graphs is what we call a void analysis. So it kind of puts these little dots on the map of where the numbers of businesses are located. This particular one is all of service sector businesses. So this spans the gamut of all kinds of different types of service sectors. At first look, it looks like it's spread out pretty well, but when you look more closely, it's really concentrated on 278, Bluffton Road, Old Town. The lower numbers are kind of spread out to the west, but the concentration is in that eastern portion of town, 278 and Bluffton Road. This just looks at your dentist office. Again, concentrating on 278, Bluffton Road, Old Town. Here's pharmacy, seeing a similar trend. One of the positives are you are seeing that in the Buckwalter development area, which is one of our focuses from economic development in the past. It is working. There's getting those types of services out there.
So real quick, so the pharmacy, Publix, wouldn't they have one, or does that not qualify?
Yes, so for whatever reason, the Publix out at New Riverside had not been in their database yet, but we do know it's there. Daycare obviously is an issue. If you talk to anyone with kids, this is an issue. Not only finding daycare, and the ones that happen to have a seat are extremely expensive. Then just look at doctor's office in general. Again, same trend that we see with all the other service area industries. This is a quick graph on the physicians per 100,000. Physicians per capita is what they call it. The U.S. average is 261. We're right around 190, so well below the national average. On a per 100,000 basis. So when we looked at, so we had to identify what incentive areas are we going to focus on, what are the industries or professions we want to focus on, and what types of incentives would we identify. So we started with the comp plan, and in the comp plan it identifies these town center and village nodes, which are in those particular areas of the high population, low business sector areas. And we looked at what are the corridors or roadways that support that may have commercial or even residential potential development for certain types of affordable housing developments. And so we had Bluffton Parkway west of Bluffton Road, Buckwalter Parkway north of Bluffton Parkway, and South Carolina Highway 71 between 46 and 278. And you see that here. So within the ordinance, we identify these as the focused incentive areas that would be eligible for a potential economic development incentive. Yes, there are some residential areas in here, but you'll see that one of the incentive industries or developments would be affordable housing. So here we are with our target industries and professions, and they fall in healthcare, dental, home health, pharmaceutical, retail, childcare, affordable housing, mixed-use commercial flex use spaces. So this is interesting because a lot of the service sector, which there's a lot of demand for and low supply, use these office up front, warehouse in the back type of spaces to expand their services. And there's an extreme amount of high demand for these types of office spaces for those industries. And of course, we won't ignore corporate headquarters. If someone from a corporate headquarters came to us and wanted to leverage this in order to encourage them to come here, we definitely would try and work out a deal with them. So we didn't want to exclude that. To be eligible for the incentive in the ordinance is proposed that developments that are consistent with the comp and strategic plans, that these incentives will support development that is unlikely to occur or may not occur at the desired scale that it would have if they were not available. The developments would have a minimum investment of $500,000, and this also includes a per job factor, and one job would equal $50,000 in investment. And then again, it must be for one of those targeted business industries or services.
Question?
Yes.
The one job that equals 50K, is this part of the minimum investment? Like if you're going to provide 5 jobs, that's 250. So would that come off of their required 500,000 investment?
That's correct. Yeah. So it's encourage more jobs, job growth. Basically, that's the focus of that. So potential incentives that we included in the first draft of the ordinance are here. Now, it's important to note that we cannot waive any of these fees listed, and we cannot severely discount them. But what you can do, and so when a developer comes through, they still have to go through the normal process, pay all the normal fees. But what you can do is you can develop a grant, approve a grant to developers as an incentive. That once they fulfill their end of the bargain, once they fulfill their obligations, you can equate that grant to some form of these costs. So that's how the ordinance is structured. So it's very important to note that we are not waiving fees, forgiving fees. That's not how this is structured. It is a grant that is equal up to 50% of planning building fees collected by the town and or 50% of business license fees collected for up to 5 years. up to 100% of Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority capacity fees. And then there's also a clause that any other incentives determined by council on a case-by-case basis. It also writes in the ordinance that the council may leverage some state laws that offer property tax credits for abandoned buildings, as well as tax credits for installation of fire sprinkler systems. Any questions?
You've asked, you want to start? Do you have questions, Bridget?
Not necessarily a question, because I looked at the presentation, Chris. Very thorough, as always. It helped outline exactly what the purpose of this is, and it's definitely a need to have incentives there as we recognize that deficit. I more so have a comment in the sense of, as we look to approve the one tonight, we should think of another way to incentivize other businesses too. We've recognized that we have an absence and a high demand of the businesses you outlined here. And a part of it is you attributed lack of access to affordable housing and the retention of the workforce here. So I'm saying all to say a proposal at some point has to be considered of, we have a workforce that is here that we could retain. What businesses are going to be needed to incentivize them to remain, as it would be more advantageous to attract who we already have, those coming right out of high school or those who are already working here. Child care is definitely going to be one of those, because that's a concern a lot of families have. But other than that, like, what other things are going to be needed to keep them here as we combat the one problem of trying to incentivize those deficit businesses we don't have? Then how do we, once we get them here, they're still going to have that issue of having the workers to keep those businesses going. So it's like, while we're addressing one problem, what do we do to also address the other problem that's going to come once we solve that?
Is it rhetorical, or you want me to comment?
No, I just want to put that on your radar, because we have the child care. I think that's one of the recognized incentives in addition to the one you have here. But what, that workforce that is here, those students who would just master a skill and don't need to go off necessarily to a four-year college, what can we do to keep them here, opposed to them saying, there's nothing for me to do in Bluffton or Hilton Head, so I'm going to go somewhere else. And we can monopolize that workforce and show them that they can stay here and do some of the same things.
Since you asked a couple of questions, I'm going to go for Fred. Did you have any questions?
Ignore everything Bridget said. Go ahead.
Dan, do you have anything?
I just want to commend staff. Each of you bring so many talents, and this is actually, I didn't expect all of this. And with the mayor and Larry and them, it was well thought out, well presented, excellent piece of work.
Larry, anything?
Yeah, I just want more clarification on the values of one employee. I'm not sure, so I get the $500,000 contribution to start a business, basically. But if they're going to hire 10 people, if they come to us and say they're going to hire 10 people, does that qualify them for assistance? Or, under the guidelines that
as long
you're
as they're in
showing
one of the
us?
areas identified and in one of the industries or professions that is identified, yes, that would qualify them to be considered for a council grant. So they would apply, and if an ordinance is approved, staff would develop a policy and procedure around managing these applications. Applications would come in, staff would vet, make sure we get any specifics or answer any questions. Ultimately, they'd be presented at council for your approval. And again, the way it's structured is this would be a grant after they fulfill their obligations.
I can just see that being hairy at some situations, with promises. We've dealt with people that would build stuff and promise, and we're going to have all this great stuff, and then the next thing you know, they take the money and run. So,
But it sounds like they're not.
I love the concept. I love the idea. I think you did an awesome job.
Pay and receipt.
I think it's headed in the right direction. Totally support.
Mayor?
Yes.
But this is a question based on Larry's comments. But that investment spread out over the 5-year period, is it not?
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, that way, if you do something like that, they're not getting everything on the front end necessarily. So it might be a little safer.
And it sounds like they're not getting anything on the front end. Is that what it says?
True.
Go back to the slide where it shows no businesses in New Riverside, and I wonder where y'all live. Where do you live, boys, men, young men? Where do you live?
I live in Bluffton.
Where?
Bluffton, here.
Okay, but what neighborhood?
Lawton Station.
Lawton Station, okay. Kind of sort of near there, does everyone?
I live in Hampton Hall.
Okay, so y'all are in this area we're talking about, and I love this because there's not a thing this town can do about traffic, not a thing. It's state and county. Look at all those cars that are at Lawton Station that come down May River Road or Bluffton Parkway or somewhere to clog to get to somewhere on the needs. And if they can be built around your neighborhood, then you're maybe golf carting, walking, biking, or a short ride. And I think that's our way of helping get some of this traffic staying where it needs to stay.
And that was the vision for the agreement to state what it does.
Right.
And that's what was talked about.
My one question is, how can we package this and take it to EDC? And I know I'm on that committee, because there's also, if the Economic Development Corporation sees that these are true economic development projects for us, I would think we have kind of a help on that, like an aid. So business wants to open up a daycare, I guess would come to us because it's pretty intimidating to go there, and we can almost handhold them to there and try to figure out a way to maximize their commitment with a little less of what we have to pay.
Yeah.
You don't have to, that's just a thought.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Has the Don Ryan Center been presented any of this information?
No, they have an executive session end of August, and they'll be presented a couple items. One is the economic development project in Buckwalter, and this.
Okay. Well,
Interesting.
I think we've got all of the people that moved here that brought their jobs with them, and we need to take care of these youngsters, make sure they stay here. But I think it's a great tool to show these residents we're trying to get everything brought to them. So, any other questions?
Chief, you have any of those fancy badges with you? I need to give all those kids from Lawton Station one.
Councilman Hamilton lives in Lawton Station. You have a councilman that lives in your neighborhood.
Well, let's give out his address.
Yeah, I was meet me, we'll go visit him. He can give a little fireside chat.
It's every night.
And he's funny. Okay, is there a motion to approve first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the Code of Ordinances by authorizing, establishing, and adding Section 6, the Economic Development Incentives Program?
So
Is
moved.
there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Great job, Chris, and Susan, and staff. All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Next, we have a resolution amending the FY 2024 millage rate.
All right, so
Yes.
it's me again.
You-
So this was a reassessment year. So every 5 years in South Carolina, counties reassess properties and adjust, and municipalities and local jurisdictions have to adjust their millage accordingly. So the last reassessment was in 2018, and council reduced millage as part of that reassessment by 2 mills from 42.35 to 40.35. And then the following year, in 2019, council reduced millage again by 1.85 mils to 38.5, where it has remained ever since. So the reassessment for this year was appraisal date as of December 31st, 2022. We did not get the data from the county until after the approval of our budget. So the budget was adopted at 38.5 mils. And as part of reassessment, we can adjust our millage. So the revenue neutral, so as part of the reassessment, you calculate how much your mills would adjust to keep your revenue the same year over year. And so right now we're at 38.5 mils, and the revenue neutral rollback would be 34.3 mils. The state law also allows councils and local jurisdictions to increase millage in reassessment years based on CPI and population growth. So if we just took 1 year's worth of CPI and population growth, we could technically increase our millage up to 40.6. There's also a 3-year look back, so we could do a lot more than that, but that's the 1-year metric. So the options we're looking at tonight are no change, which would leave the millage at 38.5, because it falls below that 48.6. We could reduce it or increase it up to that 40.6. What town staff is recommending is that town council approve a millage reduction from 38.5 to 36, so 2.5 mil reduction. This is a look at our median home value assessment at $336,000. Under the current millage, the Bluffton taxes, this is not all of their property taxes, but just the property tax that gets paid to Bluffton, is $517.59. If that median home value did not change, this would be, and our millage goes to 36, that would be a reduction annually of $33.61. If the home increased 5%, it'd be a reduction of $9.41. If their home increased 10%, they'd be paying $14.79 more. And if their home increased to the cap, the state cap, it caps it at 15% increase in any one reassessment, the annual change would be $38.99. So in summary, what staff is recommending is reduction in millage from 38.5 to 36 for FY24. This also not only reduces millage, but also addresses 2 large unbudgeted items. One is Waste Management came to us after the approval of the budget about a recycling cost increase that is in their contract. So they have a clause in their contract that if the market for recyclables causes their costs to significantly increase, they can approach the town to renegotiate. They have done that. They originally came to us with an increase per residential unit of $4.27. We have since got them down to $2.57. So we got them down $2 from what they originally came to us with. Actually, our negotiation caused them to go renegotiate with their recycling hauler to get those costs down. The second item is a proposal from our chief that would cost us annually $275,000, and this is to readjust the pay step plans. So it does 2 things. One is, as part of the budget process, our surrounding jurisdictions increased their base pay for incoming officers, entry-level officers. So now Bluffton we pay the lowest out of the region for our incoming officers. So this would adjust that up to match our neighbors. The other thing it does is it includes steps that provide incentives for meeting certain milestones, whether it be certain types of training or education, or certain types of awards, gives them an opportunity to increase the step and increase the pay if they achieve those milestones. It also would allow for us recruiting new officers to the police force. If they already have certain types of educations or trainings, we can actually offer higher pays, entry-level pay, based on those marks or that education they have. What the calculation that we provided does not include, this is just for your information, does not impact anything right now, but property owners are allowed to appeal, so it doesn't factor in any appeals that are successful. It also doesn't factor in any non-resident to resident changes that occur prior to January 14th. Any questions or discussion?
Questions on this side?
The contract on the waste management, for how many years is that?
It's a 5-year contract, and we're in year 3, 2, 3.
But when you renegotiate the price increase, will you be renegotiating the length of the contract?
So we rebid it out. So we put an RFP out, solicit bidders, and they come to us with their rates. So yes, they could come back to us with whatever they feel could win them the bid, basically.
I'm just saying, you don't want them to come back 2 or 3 years from now and do it again if you can tie them into another 5-year contract. Right. Okay.
They have traditionally come back to us every 1 or 2 years to talk about different cost changes and see if we can renegotiate. After the last contract was signed, we have said no to all those questions or asks. But like I said, recycling was so volatile, they did have a clause that allowed them to come back to us for that particular reason.
Bridget?
Not a question, but just a discussion while we're having this conversation. I know you have to include the reduction here to make it palpable for some, as it, sadly has become a sticking point politically for some people to say that, they reduced the mills or we didn't reduce it. My concern is always that while we save and residents save in the immediate, we pay for it in the long run. We see ourselves now with an infrastructure, that we have to keep up with the development and the increase in population. We have services also that suffer because of it. The police department has been without 8 positions. Now we have them filled, but they had to go without being able to fill those positions. And knowing that our building, is going to continue in the sense of the amenities we offer to residents, we have to be thinking of the mitigation and long-term plans on how do we sustain those things. And for me personally, I don't mind doing the 2.5 mil reduction, but if we were able to even see a 2 mil reduction, I think we have to start thinking in the long term of the funds for these things that we need are going to have to come from somewhere, and we want to be able to have officers out patrolling and retain them and make sure their pays are comparable, to what the average is in the area. And so I just want to challenge those to not just think of being able to say we didn't reduce a mill, but what services are we able to provide to keep our residents here safe and be able to keep up with our infrastructure needs when these conversations come up.
Fred, question?
Bridget as always, makes good food for thought. But I also gave that some thought as well. And we have a very progressive town. For the last 15, 20 years, we have done very well financially. And any opportunity there is to give our constituents a break, even if it's just a minor break, I totally applaud that effort, because we never have a chance to say we're going to give something back. And especially when you want to give something back to everyone at the same time. So even though it may cost us to do business a different way, I believe that's why we hired the best of staff to make sure they manage things in a different way. So keep your eyes on the prize, and let's always try to find a way to reward our constituents. Thank you.
Larry, anything? We could do Larry and then I'll go back to you. No, you're gone.
Huh?
You're next.
Oh. I agree with reducing while we can and still accomplish the 2 things that we didn't get included in the budget. It makes perfect sense for me. I'm more than proud to say I wish our officers made more money than any other officers in the area or anywhere else. I know we can't do that. Helping them, retaining them, making their lives better, and appreciating them is always important to me. The recycling, I think we had this conversation. There's an alternative that we could just stop the recycling. Just tell Waste Management that we don't want the recycling program anymore. I'm against doing that. We could save the money. We could give back a little bit of money back to our taxpayers. But I think most of our taxpayers would appreciate having the recycling services. I know my immediate family would. I think this is helping the citizens with their tax bills. We can always go up, if next year or whenever if we need to to go up. It's easy to go up, hard to come down, so we'll take advantage of coming down as, at this time. And hopefully we can do it again, in the near future. So that's pretty much where I am.
Yeah, I just wanted to counter what Council Hamilton said. Thank him for his compliment. But he's correct. This is an opportunity to save residents. And so while it's a financial save, coming back again to services, they're not saved. When we were in a place being short-staffed with officers, thinking about retention and even the quality for them, in addition to residents, we've had officers who are working overtime and working additional hours to fill in where we had gaps of not being able to provide for those positions. And so residents pay for that. When we've had people ask, well, how come I can't get patrols in my neighborhoods, or how come, officers used to be able to do whatever, how come we don't have that anymore? And the response was, well, we didn't have the staff at the time to provide it. So it's like, we have to be able to think outside of just saying in the immediate, you're going to save $500 or whatever it is. Not even, you're going to save $33 at the end of the year. In the grand scheme of things, we have to ask ourselves, what's the greater value? And I think it's hard to say that we want to attract and keep people here and that we respect the work of our officers and other things, and dealing with the high cost of living and just everything else, when we have the opportunity from a policy standpoint to help offset that, we have to sometimes make decisions, even if it's contrary to public opinion, that's going to be for the greater good of the community. And I just see this as an opportunity to do that. Just my thoughts.
No, they're good thoughts. I think we're only cut 2
I'm saying, like, I know that
she wants to cut. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, like, I know the 2.5 at the end of the day, like, it's made palpable because most people are going to say no, don't reduce the mills at all. But I'm like, I like to think ahead, like it's about the mitigation. So if we're dealing with the problem when it's a problem, it's too late. It's like, I'd rather look at the road ahead and how do we address things before we get there, because we know that as our population increase, services are going to increase. The need for staff is going to increase. We're building more amenities. We're going to have an additional need for staff to maintain those. So it's like, how are we going to be able to keep up with those things without looking at instances where here we can, yes, reduce it, but we shouldn't be looking at significant reductions just for saying that we're saving people like $30. If in the long run, it's going to cost us losing and not being able to fill positions or not being able to keep up with certain services or like infrastructure demands. Like, we have to create a balance for everybody.
I thought, real quick, I thought I heard you were thinking not 2.5 mils, but just reduce it 2. Is that what I heard?
That'd be my suggestion.
Help me with this. Listening to everybody has great comments. Everybody, but the mayor's had great comments, and the arguments well made by everyone. We have had trouble with retaining officers, but part of that was we let our wage and salary plan get behind us and lapse, and we revealed our weakness that we were like 13% or whatever it was backwards in our pay, and we were trying to make up that. This is trying to make up for that again since that wage and salary analysis took place because of the people around us. The other part of it is, and this is really where I'm going with you, is we're still a little bit in the growth mode. We still have commercial that we're talking about that is finally starting to catch up with the rooftops. And the mill will continue to grow in value for the next amount of years. Is that a fair assessment in your opinion?
Yes.
So for me personally, I think the arguments are sound, but I'm good with where your recommendation would be. And let's see where we end up a few years from now.
So a $0.5 mil, I'm fine either way. But I kind of was thinking through this we're starting to see more commercial finally. That brings more tax revenue. The motion either way, I would vote on it. Because I do think this is the only time we can show some reduction in an assessment year, some reduction. And as property taxes build commercially, then every budget year, we could put out to you, let's see how we can get this lower. That's how Hilton had lowered it to 20 mils or something. But maybe that's an important part. Like you brought up two things that are so emotional: public safety and trash and recycling. I'm looking at the parents out there. So how dare we cut either? I just don't want, and I think all of you are important, but we have gone through that process for all of staff. But how do we keep these officers excited to work for this chief in this town? And, let's just be very careful about skimming too much over the time, being smart, coming in at a budget year, where we know where we are, but don't be afraid to bring this up to us through Stephen that this is stuff we need, because I always ask the chief, what do you need? What do you need? So I think we need to be very proud of that. I don't know what a $500,000 does, honestly, but maybe put it somewhere to see what we may be missing. I don't know. And what is $500,000? 100,000?
No, it's
120?
180,000.
80,000.
180.
180. I thought we were over 3 for the mill.
And there was, Mayor, if I may, I reached out to town manager and Chris, but when you looked at the numbers they put in the report, there was still an excess of money that was not going to be used for everything here. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it's a little tricky when you break it down because we still have our TIF. So technically, we only get 50% of the properties from the TIF to go to general fund. The other sits in our debt service fund for TIF debt service as well as projects that fall within the TIF. So it looks a little funky because of that, but that is a factor, as well as we have our debt service mill of 1.7, which again, that only goes in debt service, pay debt service, or for capital projects.
We got, I think, clarity, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. When we were down positioned, especially for the police department, it wasn't because of lack of funding. It was because we just needed to fill the position, and maybe we lost employees, had to recruit to find them. Am I correct?
I mean, you could make a lot of assumptions about what it could be. I mean, it's cost of living, it's a loss of a lot of officers all at once and trying to make up for it. There's a lot of factors that wrap up.
It wasn't because of lack of funding from the
town, no.
Budget, right? Okay.
And to correct that, that's not what I was implying. What I was saying is we were not able to retain a lot of officers. They weren't leaving and going into other fields. Some left and went to Hardyville or left and went to neighboring places where they could get more money. And it's like, you have to think about that. We all in the workforce, that's a main factor. When you have a family and you're trying to sustain a livelihood, it's being able to have a wage that's going to meet those demands. And you have to, at the end of the day, make those decisions based on who's giving you more funding, for your skill level and for your job.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a reason we're even talking about this tonight. If I'm putting the whole package together properly, had these requests and from the police department and from waste management all have been done before budget time, we could have saved money, cut money somewhere else probably, and made it all work. But because the budget's already done, it's the only way we can provide the service to our officers and the service to our people with the recycling increases is to do it this way. And is that somewhere in?
That's fair. I mean, you definitely, it's your prerogative. You could always cut budgets whenever you choose to vote on it. I would not recommend that, but that is your prerogative.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I can make the motion. Is there a motion to approve a resolution amending the FY 2024 millage rate from 38.5 to 36 with a 34.3 mil for operations and 1.7 mil for debt service?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. See all the good stuff we work on, guys? And we care about our police. Get with him, too. Did a great job. We have a consent agenda. So on the consent agenda are a lot of items. We would stay here till 11 o'clock at night. But the most important, I feel, are the monthly reports, and you can look on them online and see what the police is doing, finance, projects, everything is in that item number 1. We usually vote on this as a whole consent agenda. Is there anything we need to remove? And I believe Mr. Finger said we didn't need to remove item number 3, because whenever we sit here and we have someone that might have conflict, they can't vote on it. And for this particular item, one of our councilmen has a conflict, so he will not vote on this. He will recuse himself, I guess. So with the exception of item number 3, which is to approve an amendment to the agreement with Eagles Field, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we will reach number 3. Do you want to officially say?
Yes. And I'd like to recuse myself from approving the amendment for Eagles Field.
And then you make sure you sign your paperwork with Marcia. Okay, so we have the Eagles Field item pulled off the agenda. Would there be any more discussion on that? Now it's out, or we can approve it separately. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to the agreement with the Bluffton Eagles Community Action Committee for the development and management of Eagles Field? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Y'all get to go home because now we go into executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters regarding town council appointments, boards, committees, and commissions? And that's FOIA, Freedom of Information Act 3470A1. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We're in executive session. Terry, you're going to tell them they don't have to stay. We might have action from executive session, but it'd be on a committee. I've been with my sister for a whole year. And I know you just have to
Yeah.
to town boards, commissions, and committees. I'm going to read the whole thing at one time. Motion to reappoint Betty Black to the Municipal Election Commission with a term expiring June 30th, 2029. Motion to reappoint Laura Bush and Babby Guccio to the Wall of Honor Committee. Motion to appoint Charlie Wetmore to the Sales Tax Advisory Committee. Motion to appoint Emmett McCracken to the Military Enhancement Committee. Motion to reappoint Tabor Vox, Michael Frazier, Myra Riveria Vasquez, and Reginald Howard to the Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Committee with terms expiring June 30th, 2026. Motion to appoint the following to the new Public Arts Committee: Jamie Gall, Maria Hooper, Pierce Scott, which will be the chair, Deidre Young, with terms expiring June 30th, 2027, and Raquel Henderson, Pamela Davis, and Brevin Ben Bowler, with terms expiring June 30th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Amen.
Michael, for speaking.